"76 days until opening day." 76 days, and I think you know what that means. That means that tomorrow there will be 75 days until opening day. I don't know that 76 days has any significant meaning other than that. John Radigan here with Jeff Wilson. It's the DLLS Rangers Podcast, and it's another snow day with no snow for us. Snow there, Jeff, in Mansfield?
We had a dusting. We woke up this morning and the kids were pretty fired up because, well, one kid was, because there was snow on our cars.
Okay.
But that was the extent of it. Nothing really in the grass. Some of the rooftops had some snow, but it fell after they had fallen asleep. So this whole event has been a major disappointment for them and really for me. I was looking forward to a little measurable snowfall as well.
Sure, yeah, a little sledding maybe with the kids, a little fun outside in the snow, maybe a snowman. No such luck. No snow angels. North, where some of you are, we know there's more. We're glad to have you along. It's the DLLS Rangers Podcast. We want you to chat with us, and we want you to subscribe to us. We're really close to 13,000 subscribers, so click that subscribe button. It's free if you would today, and we'll get to 13K before the weekends. And also, the Prophet's here with us too. Elijah's the one who put this all together so we can do it here. Just before we click go, before Elijah, the Prophet, hit live, I heard the dog. So I've got my frosty beverage in an insulated mug.
Very good.
So,
I only have a Coke Zero. Hang on. I'll get the wife on it.
Yeah. Get the brewski going. And I may have to if the dog and the kids don't interrupt a lot, I'll just have to choose times. I might just guzzle. You know what I might do? I might drink whenever they don't interrupt. So I'll be sitting here guzzling beer throughout the course of the program. After all, it's a Friday afternoon.
Friday.
I mean, usually we're on at noon on Fridays, which is technically, I suppose, afternoon. But anyway, this is afternoon, man. This is time. This is cool. So here we are. We're glad to be here. We've got lots to talk about. And Jeff, I guess we start with the quote unquote news. Some of it we had yesterday, all of it we expected yesterday, but that is that both Jonah Heim and Cody Taveras have avoided arbitration with the Rangers.
Yeah, and that's not insignificant. You want harmony and everything, and then it's, you never want to go to a hearing like we talked about yesterday, how mean it can get and how feelings can get hurt. I think I mentioned yesterday Lee Stevens beating the Rangers. He did not beat them. They beat Lee Stevens, and then they added injury to insult by trading him. But it's been 25 years, and it's a pretty remarkable streak. But really, if everybody's in good standing and peace and love and all of that stuff, and nobody's had their feelings hurt, then there's no reason not to do it. So they ended up signing for around $9.3 million combined, which I think might have been a little bit higher than I was anticipating. I thought they could have done something a little lower with Leody to save a little money, but it turns out that's okay. And so now they have their, just about everybody who is on the 40-man roster. All the just open the lights there, and there we go. A little curtain.
I hear the beer. Yeah, I hear the beer.
Yeah, we got the beer here in a Rangers koozie, so we're all set. But the pre-arbs will sign during spring training, early in spring training, and go from there. But yeah, we don't have any drama no contractual drama to worry about the rest of the way, except for Sasaki and maybe a closer.
Yeah. By the way, and I just saw Rarity's text or chat within the show. We do appreciate all of you finding us today that have, and let your friends within the chat know we're here now. It is kind of a random time for us to be going at 2:00, and we're never sure why. We just pretty much sit down in front of the camera when they tell us to, and here we are. But there is so much to talk about, and that arbitration thing, Jeff, as you mentioned, is not insignificant, because so many times if teams do go to arbitration, even if there's not a split necessarily, there can be some bad feelings, some rancor. Even last year, it felt like heading toward the process, and it got close with Adolis, that there was going to be some hard feelings. I mean, and again, understandably in a way, all the guy did was act like a King Kong, if you will, heading through the World Series, through the playoffs, and then like, really? I'm not worth that, whatever those figures were back then to you. Now, as it turned out, they avoided all that and got a deal done. But I could sense already that, understandably, his feelings were going to be hurt, and maybe they were a little bit anyway. That's one of the theories I held throughout the season, was that
the off-season contractual thing really bothered him. Adolis, for as big and strong as he is, he's a pretty sensitive guy. He cares about his performance. He, like all of us, he wants to be liked and appreciated, and he might have felt that he wasn't, and so it ended up working out in the end. I don't know, you don't know what happens behind closed doors with negotiations and if things were said or whatever, but I really thought that was something. And then the other theory that was thrown out to me by somebody in the organization is that after his big April, he thought that, oh man, I'm going to win the MVP. I need to keep going. I need to really step it up. And he just got in his own head and could never get out. So, it's just, hey, let's stay away from these hearings. Okay. I mean, the Blue Jays and Vlad Guerrero Jr. were able to do so for $28.5 million. It's a gigantic number. And I just think that, that what transpired yesterday was very good news for the Rangers.
It really was. The questions and the chat coming through. I did see Natalie just ask if Taveras becomes the fourth outfielder, assuming that Evan Carter is healthy. And I'm not sure we can assume that, and for several reasons, Jeff, one of which, maybe foremost among them, is that Bruce Bochy loves the athleticism and the game and the style and the personality of Leody Taveras. No, that's not to say he doesn't love Evan Carter and all those things in him too, but that is not something that's just given, right? If Evan Carter is going to supplant Leody Taveras as one of the starting outfielders, Evan Carter will need to earn that.
Well, yeah, I don't know that you can call either of them an everyday outfielder, because they both struggle to hit left-handers. I think the first one to show he can hit lefties a little bit is gonna have the advantage. The good news is that Evan's been here all offseason. I like Leody. The back procedure he had in October has freed him up to swing. The Rangers are anticipating that he's going to be a full go at spring training, but this is the second time he's injured his back in his career, and he's only 22. So you wonder, all right, do you have to be careful? This is a I don't care what the owners and were trying to sell us back when this ballpark opened. This is artificial surface. All right. It is not as cushy as natural stuff. It just isn't. Adam Jones, I remember in 2019, the year before Globe Life Field opened, he was playing for Arizona at the time, and Arizona had the same company making their artificial surface as the Rangers. So it was a big storyline. We went to Arizona basically to focus on that. And Andrew Jones said, at the end of the day, it's still turf. It's still not grass, and you still are sore. So my point being, center field, you got to cover a lot of ground. And so do you want Evan Carter to have to take that beating 5-6 times a week, 7 times a week? I don't think the answer is yes on that, especially if you think he's as good as he is. If he's as good as he was in the postseason, gosh, you got an all-star. So you need to protect your investment, such as it is. And so I don't know that he's going to be the everyday player. He also missed a year of development last year.
Yeah.
Let's keep that in mind. That's the main worry outside of the health that the Rangers have. He didn't see the pitchers that Wyatt Langford saw, for instance. So right now, Wyatt Langford, is a more developed player than Evan Carter, even though Carter debuted in 23 while Langford was in the minors. So there's just some Evan Carter stuff that still has to be answered before he can be anointed the opportunity. I mean, I think if push comes to shove, they're going to give him the chance. I think they want him to be the everyday guy. He gets on base, he can hit for power, he's fast, he's a good defensive player, but it just, he has to show that the back's fine.
Yeah, he does. And that referencing that trip in 19, I was on that trip too, and I remember all the owners I'm pretty sure Ray and Neil and all of them were there in Arizona too, kind of checking it out. And the Arizona, the Diamondbacks PR people were kind of helping steer us toward people who might have positive things, to be honest with you, to say about the turf. And I think they actually steered us toward Jones, and we all ran up to his locker. And he was even harder, I think, than what you indicated. Like, he was like, "Oh, this is terrible. It's like any other turf." Now, it's clearly a little better than that. Guys aren't getting, their knees killed them, their ankles killed them, their hips killed them, their back killed them. It's clearly a little better than any other turf, but it is, to your point, still turf. And as hard as they try with their seashells and their, various components that they put in there, you just can't recreate God's earth.
Yeah, very clearly it's better than, what the Expos and Royals and all those guys had back in the late 70s and early 80s. Andre Dawson, the Hall of Famer, if he had played his whole career, like for the Cubs, like when he became the MVP in 88 or 89 as it was, it was 88, might have been 87. Well, anyway, in the 80s, I mean, if you see Andre Dawson walk now, you're like, oh my gosh. There was a winter meetings he and I were at, and we were in the workout room together, and he was not going hard. All right. It was not pretty to watch Andre Dawson on the treadmill or elliptical, whatever it was. That turf takes its toll, and so it's obviously there have been significant advancements in the technology since then, but turf is turf and natural grass is natural grass.
Yep, it is. And it's definitely a concern. And to your point, in addition to all of those things that you mentioned, both those guys have a problem, at least to have had a problem, hitting left-handed pitching. And that's big. And it has to be either addressed. I mean, it's addressed one of two ways. One of them starts hitting lefties, or when there's a lefty on the mound, somebody else is going to play center field.
Yeah, well, Evan Carter's a young player. They don't want to relegate him to DH, to part-time platoon duty at this point. So they have to get opportunities if they're going to get better. That's just the only way really to do it. So there might be some games where, the Rangers have an easy out at the bottom of their lineup, but it's something that needs to get done.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the talk about what they did yesterday, which is good. It's significant, and it's not something that is lost on us in any event. Now, there is something happening with the Texas Rangers player at Globe Life Field this weekend. When we come back, we'll talk about that. And we'll also check in with one of your favorite young players on the Texas Rangers. It's the DLLS Rangers Podcast. 80 Pro Football Hall of Famers have played in the East-West Shrine Game. That is a heck of a game. If you had a chance to watch the semifinal, the college football playoff semifinal last night between Notre Dame and who the heck were they playing? Whoever they beat.
Penn State.
Penn State. Thank you. I'm a Notre Dame guy. I forget who we beat up on. Anyway, but it was fun. It was a great game. College football is just so much fun, and it's even what's really fun. The East-West Shrine Game's an all-star game. So do yourself a favor, get yourself some tickets at Jerry World this year. January 29th is the date for the East-West Shrine Game. It's the 100th anniversary of the East-West Shrine Game. It benefits a charity, the Shriners Children's Hospital, and the tickets start as low as $20 a ticket. So go to eastwestshrinegame.com, get your tickets to that game, and enjoy probably what will be this year anyway, the last college football game of the year.
I doubt that Sleeper will have availability, or you'll be able to do the daily picks on the East-West Shrine Game, but you sure can on the Cotton Bowl tonight. And I probably will have a couple from that game. Quinn Ewers, for instance, has thrown a touchdown pass in like 18 or 20 straight games. So I feel good about his chances to throw a TD. To get a check mark next to your name on this pick, though, he's got to throw more than one. So anyway, that's what it is these days with Sleeper. They're not necessarily having abandoned fantasy by any means, but they're getting into the daily picks business. I do it pretty much daily. It's fun. My wife does it. My son does it, even though he's only 12. He does it through us. It's all legal, but it is a good time, and it just really makes sports more enjoyable. So if you think you have what it takes, download the Sleeper app and use the code DLLS Rangers to get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details.
Yeah, Sleeper is a great one, and we're going to get to Josh Jung is the guy we're talking about, and one of the guys who will be at the ballpark this weekend. But quickly on that Notre Dame Penn State game, did you see James Franklin's comments after the game?
I did not.
Wow, this guy is wheels off. I mean, it was a sarcastic, profanity-laden, and again, we had the conversation about me saying Pop-Tarts are overrated a few weeks ago leading up to the Pop-Tart Bowl. No. He says, oh, yeah, good thing we didn't have to play Michigan this year. We'd have lost to them and Ohio State. He says, and then I'd have been 8-4, and I'd have been in the, profanity effing, Pop-Tart Bowl, and they'd have been dumping frosting all over me at the end of the GD thing. I mean, he
really?
It was like that's my dream of my lifetime is to watch the mascot come out of a toaster, and then I'm supposed to eat him? What the heck? I'm like, wow. It was the most unbelievable post-game interview I've ever seen.
I've got to go back. I'm gonna go back and watch that.
You got to find that. It was one of these deals where somebody asked a question, and I don't even think this was part of the question. You didn't hear the full question, but he said, yeah, I know I can't win the big game. Well, I can win a big game. I mean, when I say big, I mean Minnesota and Pitt. I'm like, yeah, okay, so those aren't big games for Penn State. So, man, it was unbelievable. Go check it out. Find it after the show, if you would, because we got some fun stuff to talk about yet, which includes this Josh Jung business. And before we get to his wiffle ball tournament, which, by the way, you diehards, you could be a part of this weekend, Sunday at the ballpark. We do want to, before we get to that, just talk a little bit about Josh, who, man, he looked great on that show, on the weekly show yesterday with you, Jeff, and John Moore. It looks like he's happy and well rested and healthy and ready to go.
Very good spirits, I would say, and I'm not sure how often we could say that with Josh last year, really beginning before spring training, because he showed up to camp a few days before pitchers and catchers reported. Very first day, he pulls his calf muscle and basically misses all of spring training. And then he has a nice series against the Cubs to open the season. He's off to a great start, having a great game in the fourth game at Tampa Bay until the ninth inning when he gets hit by Phil Maton and breaks his wrist. And it was initially the thought was, oh, it's a clean break, 6 to 8 weeks, no problem. Yeah, he's going to have surgery, get it taken care of. When the surgeon in Phoenix, Don Sheridan, who probably is going to name his boat after Josh Jung because he's operated on him so many times, he found that there were 4 fractures. And if you watch the interview, Josh said that Sheridan had to use like a bone glue or something to get everything back together, and then they put in a plate, and it was just at such a weird spot on the wrist, right here, and just below the wrist. So a lot happens with that wrist. If you're right-handed, and he is, you throw. It affected his throwing. So he missed 4 months basically. And he tried to come back in June. It didn't work, so they gave him another month. And then at the end of the year, there was still inflammation and swelling in there. After the season, he had it's called a tendon release surgery. Not Dr. Sheridan, a guy in LA named Stephen Shin did it, and apparently it was the magical elixir. Josh Jung said he has been great ever since then, and I think we have a clip of him talking about how he's doing this offseason. Hey, so you're swinging a bat if you're going to play in this thing. How are you doing physically?
I'm full go. So far, so good.
You were at the end of the year, so I figured.
Yeah, because I had that little second procedure pretty much right after the season was over. And I don't know if Dr. Shin waved some magic fairy dust over my wrist or what, but so far we've been able to feel like a normal human. So hopefully we can continue that. I'm full go with everything in the cage. I've been taking a ton of swings off the machine, which is something I wasn't able to do when I was playing there at the end. So that's promising. The only real test now is to face pitching, but obviously that's not going to come till camp. But the way it feels now, the way it bounces back day to day, I'm in a really good spot. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed and hopeful for it to be a thing of the past. But it's been really good.
Yeah, great news. I mean, it is just doing everything, and gosh, the Rangers are their record when he misses games the last 2 years, as opposed to when he's in the lineup, is just really tells you how important he is. And he kills left-handers, so that's something that the Rangers really need. So they need him in there. It's a deep ball threat. No disrespect to Josh Smith, but Josh Jung has more power. And you want Josh Jung in there at third base, hitting home runs, clogging up the middle of the order, and just making it harder on pitchers.
Yeah, he's a wonderful addition. He's been great at third base, and improved tremendously year to year in that realm. And what's interesting when he says that is just that I feel like a normal human, implication being he didn't, right? Even when he was done, he couldn't take those repetitive swings over and over again in the batting cage when he was back and quote unquote healthy in August or September, whenever that was. So this is huge. This is really big that he feels this good, that he feels this well. I would like to get my hands on a little bit of that magic fairy dust. I mean, just, for my right knee, and I don't know what all, but that sounds like this last procedure was, as you said, the magic elixir and the one that got him back to being Josh Jung.
Yeah, and again, it's he wears that label of being injury prone, though the injuries that he's had haven't been like these repeated soft tissue injuries. They've been broken bones, and the labrum injury was a wear and tear thing at a critical joint in your shoulder that if it goes, it goes, but it's not a recurring injury. It's recurring freak injuries. And so I think injury prone has a different connotation than what he's been dealing with.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think that I know that among all the young guys, Langford, Evan Carter, some of these other guys, the pitchers. I mean, he was kind of the first young guy here. And so he's like sort of the mother hen, right? The leader of that group of young guys, of which there are many on this team, and included, I mean, obviously a bunch of veterans too, but that core young group of players is the ones that will usher this thing into, the next open window of success.
Yeah, you want to develop, you want to draft and develop really, really good players. And Josh Jung is an all-star, and okay, he was voted onto the team, but if you look at third base that year, he's probably going to be on the team anyway. So it's important, and you have to have these guys. Josh Jung is not making a lot of money this year, right?
No.
I mean, he's not. He's one of the pre-arbs, so he's making the league minimum, probably just above it. And they all help balance out the budget. We're talking about them pushing against the competitive balance tax. Well, if Kumar Rocker is bless you, if Kumar Rocker can replace John Gray next year, that's $13 million in savings. Or Jack Leiter can, whoever, that's just a huge deal. That's how teams survive. Another one. They come in threes, John. Are you all right?
Well, it's the magic fairy dust, I think, is the problem.
So yeah, it's a big deal for him to come along, and the players that the Rangers have acquired via trade and they've watched them develop. Jonah Heim is one. Josh Smith, Ezekiel Duran. We can go on and on about these guys that they made some pretty heady trades to get good guys. Adolis Garcia is one. They traded Adolis was put on waivers, and they made a trade with the Cardinals to get him. So it's part of a successful organization being able to develop your own talent.
Yeah, and so I can't even calculate the number of hours as a young, really child, but probably because I had younger brothers, probably till I was in my middle teens, the number of hours that I played wiffle ball or home run derby. I did it with my son too in Mansfield, the house there. The number of hours of wiffle ball I've played over the years is just really incalculable. And it's such a fun game. It's baseball without the danger of breaking the windows. And anyway, so there's some wiffle ball to be played at Globe Life Field this weekend as Josh Jung puts on a charity event. Let's hear about Josh's event now from him when he was on yesterday, our weekly show with
he's playing.
Wow. Okay, good.
Yeah. You can bring in a ringer. You can
Yeah, I got my own team in the tournament. We'll see how we fare, because that wiffle ball moves different, and that strike zone is a lot bigger than we're used to. So the playing field's definitely going to be leveled, but it will be fun to see how we compete against those guys.
Well, who's on your team, or is it a surprise?
I haven't really announced it yet, but as of right now, there's 7 of us with kind of an IR guy on our team. But we got myself and my brother.
Okay.
I'm about to say, is Jace playing?
That's a good start.
Adolis Garcia confirmed that he was going to come play. Jonah Heim's going to come play, even though the Bills are playing, so he'll probably be on his phone watching that Bills game. But he said he's coming. Cody Bradford's coming. And Evan's going to be there. I don't know if Evan's going to play necessarily, but he is going to be there and just hang out. And then Colton Cowser from the Orioles said he was going to come over and play. So we got 6 guys on our team, and it should be fun.
Yeah, it should be fun indeed. And you can still people can get tickets to that and be a part of that right now. Yeah, Jeff?
Yeah, I wrote a story on DLLS today. It's free for everybody. It's the Josh Jung story. There's a link for information on the event. There's a link on how to buy tickets. GA, $25. It starts at 8 a.m. Sunday, and it's just going to run till they crown a champion that night. So a lot of opportunities to see guys. And we're going to have some people there. I think the Prophet and Abby are going to go. I may stop by depending on the kids' schedules. So it should be a good time. It's for a good cause. It's for the Rangers Foundation and the Miracle League. So Josh talks about that in the interview that John Moore and I did yesterday, which you can see over at the Old Rangers Today podcast page, and I've tweeted it out also.
Yeah, fantastic. That's fun. That's the Josh Jung news for now. We're also going to hear when we continue with the DLLS Rangers podcast from a new Ranger, another young Ranger on this squad. We'll hear what he has to say and get to our batting cleanup segment too. Lots there, including another Ranger who had to make do during the snowstorm. It's all coming up. It's the DLLS Rangers podcast.
Is it Rugged Road time?
It's Rugged Road time.
We love talking Rugged Road. We don't have the prop with us like we normally do in the studio, but as you've heard, and if you haven't, you're hearing it for the first time, Rugged Road, dedicated to creating innovative and durable outdoor gear for adventurers who demand the best. We're talking coolers here specifically. In our case, they're lightweight, they float, they're hard as heck to ding up. And you know, they're perfect for camping, you know, they're perfect for going out and fishing. They're perfect for taking to the ballpark and chasing around your son and daughter as they play in tournaments during the warmer times of the year. Keeps all your stuff cold up to 7 days. So here's what you need to do. Gear up for your next adventure with Rugged Road coolers. Reliable, durable, and built to be used. Rugged Road is your ultimate outdoor companion. Head to ruggedroadoutdoors.com and use the code DLLS for 10% off.
Yeah, and if I had been sitting in this office maybe 2 days ago, I would have held up the FOCO prop. It was a Buffalo Bills. Ironically, my son and his gal are big Bills fans, and we got her a Bills sort of fuzzy thing, I don't know, that you wear, you know, and it was too small. So we sent it back. And but for a week and a half or more, it sat right here. My wife trying to remind me, you know, send this back to FOCO. And I did. And by the way, the return item came, we just wanted to get a bigger size. It came like that. I mean, it was maybe 2-3 days later. She had the new one. In fact, actually, yeah, she has it in time now for the Bills game this Sunday. So anyway,
we're going to lose. That's right. I forgot.
Yeah. FOCO's great. And they've got all kinds of stuff, not just Bills, for all teams, any team you want, knickknacks. We're still working on, I think before the playoffs are over, I'm going to have to work on those Lions overalls. I may have to sport those on the show one day if the Lions keep going. Of course, they're off this weekend, Jeff, because they're the number 1 seed in the NFC. Right. So we don't have them to worry about this weekend. But anyway, FOCO. Go to FOCO.com. Use the code DLLS. Get 10% off at FOCO. All right. Jake Berger is a you know, not just a fun name, right? I think he's going to be a really fun guy. And we want to talk about Jake in this segment. We'll start it with an interview that was on MLB Radio. I'm not sure who the guys were interviewing Jake, but he went on there and had a longer form interview, but wanted to play this snippet because it talks about his relationship, now a burgeoning relationship, with his manager, Bruce Bochy.
It's pretty incredible. You know, I think I got 2 years, 127 days of service, and I'll have the opportunity to play for 2 Hall of Fame managers. So I'm fired up. Boch lives really close to me in Tennessee, and so we've had a couple conversations, and got out on the golf course, and he's an awesome guy, and I'm really fired up to play for him.
Last one for me, Jake, and when you think about your journey so far and to be in an organization that is not too far removed from a World Series, give me a sense of in your mind how you can add to a championship caliber team.
Yeah, I mean, that's the expectation, right, is to get back there and win. And, I'm doing everything in my power to do that. I think for me, obviously I bring the power and, just working on being more consistent day in and day out and, driving in runners when I should. And, for me, it's going to be a great learning experience too of, getting around guys like Simeon and Seager and all these guys, to kind of learn from them and, take it day by day and just enjoy it. I think that's that's always fun, is when that expectation's placed on you. You can either, take it and be nervous about it, or take it and run with it and have fun every day competing.
Yeah, it seems like he's a competitor, no doubt about that. And it seems like he's fun. I like that. And just as a quick aside, Jeff, that round of golf with Boch, I mean, how much fun would that be? We've heard the Boch stories. Think about if you're out there, that'd be one of those days you're rooting for a slow group in front of you to maximize the story time.
Yeah, and Bruce will often say that he's not very good anymore, and he's approaching 70 and he walks like he's 90, and it's probably not a lot of fun for him at times to go out and play, especially if he has to walk, for crying out loud. But he does go out and has a good time, and the stories are great. And if I'm Jake Berger, I'm just sitting there like a sponge, not saying anything, just wondering, answering questions, yes sir, no sir, and just having a good time. I bet it was it was probably a little chilly there south of Nashville, but I bet that it was 3 hours very well spent for Jake.
Yeah, it's wise to do it. I think you're right. And you form a relationship, you forge a relationship that will be done. I mean, that's going to happen in the season anyway, but it doesn't hurt to get it done early. And by the way, when you just look at that still shot they had of Jake and his follow through, can you imagine? I bet he can hit the golf ball 600 yards. I mean, he's a big, strong man. Yeah,
there's that very famous clip of Mike Trout at a Top Golf. I think it's the one it's one of the ones in Arizona. It was like an Angels outing during spring training, and he just destroys the ball, just disappears. He just crushes it. I'm willing to bet that there are a lot of guys like that. Now, they may not always know where it's going.
No,
but it'd be fun to watch them. Getting a long drive competition or something, and see how they'd fare. But I bet Jake has a little. I bet he gets both cheeks into it. I bet it goes a long way. You're right.
I bet it does. I bet it does. And look, we certainly talked a lot about him when this deal first happened, and it seems like it's just really a great deal for the Rangers to get a guy who only has, as he mentioned, 127 games under his belt, and the Rangers got him, relative little in return, relatively speaking, and this guy is a blank canvas in a way. I mean, there's a lot to work with and a lot to develop there, I think, Jeff.
Yeah, and he needs to get better at first base. He's replacing a Gold Glove winner. Jake Berger doesn't need to win a Gold Glove, but it's a position where the other three infielders are counting on you a lot of times. They're not perfect with every throw. It was explained to me by a scout in the last year. He had some Achilles inflammation or something that was kind of limiting his mobility and his range. So the Rangers think that he's going to move better this year. And then they're going to have, he's probably working on it right now. So he has the offseason to work on it. He's going to have spring training, and Tony Beasley and Corey Ragsdale will be working with him daily on it. I'm sure he'll get some pointers from some guys who maybe have a little more experience at the position, though the Rangers don't have a ton of them. But that's something to watch for sure, because first base isn't a premium defensive position, but you notice it when your first baseman's bad. You noticed it before Nathaniel Lowe worked on his craft and got better. Notice it with Jose Abreu with the Astros, and there are others we could keep going, but Jake Berger, I'm sure, is going to be a work in progress defensively, but he's gonna be better than he was last year.
Yeah, and just from what we've heard in that brief interview and what we heard when we talked to him earlier in the year, earlier in the offseason, I should say, because it was actually last year. But what it sounds like is he is a guy who will absolutely, first of all, recognize he needs that work. Secondly, put in the work to get better. And your example about Nathaniel Lowe is fantastic, because Nathaniel Lowe proved if you work hard at it, you can become a better defender. And in fact, in Nathaniel's case, a Gold Glove defender.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily just scooping balls. It's
Right.
it's the balls you get to that or don't get to that other guys do. And that was the big deal for Nathaniel, I thought, was that he started fielding balls in 2023 that he wasn't fielding in 2022 and 2021. I remember a series in Seattle where there were just balls that were just kept getting hit to him that it's like, man, how did he not make that play? So, and a lot of that is footwork. Some of that's positioning. Now that the shift has been alleviated, first basemen get to play more traditionally in the first baseman spot. You don't see him over by hell second base having to run to first to cover. So there's definitely some things that have changed that will that assisted Nathaniel and will help Jake too. But it's you put your mind to it. These guys are professionals. They're athletic. They can do things that normal people can't, and so they have the ability to improve when they put their mind to it and do the work.
Yeah, and that is, to your point, that's an amazing thing when you see a guy who is the size of Jake Burger, but compared to you and me, he's like a ballerina, footwork wise, and athletic ability, athleticism wise. Now, does that put him in the level of an elite or a Gold Glove first baseman? No, because those guys are even that much better. But I think that you have that, you have, to your point, that athletic ability, and then you just have to hone it.
Well, it's that you have to know what you're going to do, and to your point about these how athletic these guys are. My daughter last night was asking if she could beat Evan Carter in a foot race. She's only 10. And I said, no, you can't. And she said, well, what if he's just jogging and I'm running? I'm like, no, probably not. She's like, well, could you beat him in a race? I was like, hell no, absolutely not. It's not even close. And that's an extreme example because he's one of the fastest guys in the big leagues, but I couldn't beat Josh Jung in a race. I couldn't beat Nathaniel Lowe or I'd like to think I could beat Benji Molina. All right. But, and at the end of his career, a hobbled with plantar fasciitis, Albert Pujols. But no, I can't beat these guys. And they're just that much more athletic than the rest of us. And they're strong and they have the hand-eye coordination to hit a baseball, let alone hit home runs, just to make contact,
Yeah.
Tim Kirchin has tweeted this before. It's like, if the common guy got up and got 100 pitches against, example, Randy Johnson, how many times would we make contact? And Tim says none, 0 times. So it's and I think it's true. Just the average Joe out there, it's just going to be that hard to do. Don't look at it. Don't judge a book by the cover. In other words, understand that there's work they can do, there's skills they can develop, there are things they can clean up, and if they're athletic, which these guys are, they're gonna be able to do it.
Yeah, and truly, to your point, even great athletes. I remember when we first started Fox Sports Net, and I was working a lot in those days on the Houston side of things. So I was covering a Houston Rockets playoff series, and Roger Clemens was with the Astros at the time. So I'm over there in the back room, back hallway somewhere at a Rockets game at Toyota Center, and Roger walks by, and one of the Berries, I think it was John Berry, was on the Houston Rockets that year, and they're kind of chatting down the hall, long way from each other. And Barry goes, "Hey, I want to try and hit your fastball." And Clemens said, "This is a guy who's a professional athlete and had been for a lot of years. He's late in his career now." Clemens said, "You not in a million years." He goes, "You can't hit my fastball." He goes, "Because even my fastball moves so much, you think it's coming straight at your head and you're bailing out like crazy." These guys know, and I believed him. I'm looking at him going, I wouldn't even want to try, man. I'd be powering away.
Yeah. And one more thing before we go to our final ad break here. Before Jake answered his last question, you heard, which kind of kind of sounded like a fart, but
Yeah.
I think it was a baby cooing. His daughter is only a few months old, and I think that when I listened to it the second time, it sounded like, I know that noise. That's not your stomach. That's a baby.
Yeah, I thought Groobs was on the board or something. That was somebody, lifting 1 feet or something. I thought the same thing, but all right, good. I'm glad it was a baby. Glad to hear it. We've got more coming as we get to our batting cleanup segment. It's the DLLS. I told you it was Friday. DLLS Rangers Podcast.
I am a little merched up today.
Nice, good.
Well, I've got the Do It for Dirt merch on.
Love
And then
it.
I do have the let's see if I can adjust my screen. I've got
yeah,
this one going.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Like
probably
that one.
one of my favorite one. I
Me
like
too.
the creativity with the letters. Something that I would have never thought of, but our guy in Denver, Eric, thought of. Not bad for a CSU graduate. But if you want to get this shirt or any of our Ranger shirts, go to store.allcitynetwork.com. Check it out. I have all of the baseball ones. I actually have a backup of the red one there that you see on the screen. And then I've got like Cowboys, Mavs, a couple DLS ones. I have the 2 TCU shirts, and I am now the possessor of a shirt from DNVR that honors rookie quarterback Bo Nix, who's going to lead the Broncos to victory Sunday in Buffalo.
Not a chance.
Okay. Anyway,
Not a chance.
store.allcitynetwork.com. We have hoodies. We're getting hats, which of course is pretty much my survival depends on it. So go there and help us out. Help the cause, become a walking billboard for us, and join the club, and we'll teach you our secret handshake.
Yes, we will, and become a diehard too, because if you do that, you get a head start on the wardrobe, because you get a free shirt if you become a diehard. And I encourage you to do that for many reasons. One of which is like today, Jeff's story about what Josh Jung is doing this weekend was free. We're trying to get the word out and help Josh's cause. But normally things like that are at all DLLS and they're at alldlls.com, and they're, behind a paywall, which everybody who has a guy of Jeff's ilk, a professional writer, a veteran long-term writer, everybody who you're trying to read, even if you get a little bit of their thing on social media, then you try to click on it and it says, yeah, do you want to subscribe or not? Because we gave you 3 sentences and that's all you get, right? So do it. $79.99. You get behind the paywall. You read everything Jeff has written. Sam Nestler for the Stars. You got Tim Cato and Mark Stein for the Mavericks. You got Joseph Hoyt and the veteran Clarence Hill for the Dallas Cowboys. That's all on our site. We're going to be adding more writers and more teams as well. So do yourself a favor. Become a diehard today. Now it is time to clean things up on a Friday, and as always, quite a few things to talk about. The Sasaki Saga continues. We saw the tweet, and I think I saw John, our buddy John Moore, react to it on Twitter. That somebody with some credibility has said recently it's down to 2 teams, and the Rangers are one of them, and he's leaning toward the Rangers. And the reality, Dodgers and Rangers, I think it was. And the reality is, as John said in the answer, we don't know that. I mean, we don't. Yeah.
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
There was an interesting thing that was sent to me as a direct message on the old Twitter by my guy Ryan Dant. Ken Rosenthal was asked about the whole thing, and one thing that he said that was pretty interesting. he was also asked about the situation with the Padres right now, how the widow of their former owner is suing the brothers for control of the team.
Yeah.
And, what long-term ramifications could that have on the franchise? And is that something that Roki Sasaki would notice?
Sure.
You wonder. You really wonder, because the Padres have shown an incredible willingness to spend the money here lately, and, probably beyond their means with their TV situation and all of that. So you do say, hey, that's something to consider. Also, Ken talked about there's a theory that the teams who here in the next week start trying to acquire more international slot money will be the ones who think they have a shot at him. And yet, yes and no, basically, because you can only acquire $250,000 at a time. So to get $1 million, you got to trade at least 4 prospects, maybe more than that. So I don't know. And then what Ken also said is, well, maybe these are teams that know they're out of it, and now they're just trying to get money to sign additional international players, because whoever signs them is going to leave behind a mess of players who need a home. So, but again, it's all speculation at this point. I know Benny in the chat room asked, doesn't this need to happen soon if he's going to visit? The answer, of course, is yes. The international signing period begins on the 15th, which is next Wednesday. And then he has until the 23rd. And the agent, Joel Wolf, indicated that it's more likely to come later than sooner. Coop with the question, what's up with the rumors that the Dodgers had planned to sign Sasaki with their $2.5 million in 2024, but MLB said no. I don't know that MLB necessarily. I don't know if there's validity to that. There might be. I think the posting was delayed so that more teams could benefit from it and having their pools reset rather than basically just leaving it to one team to sign them. And anyway, I think Sasaki probably wants more than $2.4 million.
No doubt about that. And again, I mean, the Dodgers, they kept some money in reserve in 2024, but that wasn't enough. So that wouldn't have. I saw that rumor even before the posting got delayed, and I thought it just doesn't make sense that was going to happen. So, but anyway, Sasaki's saga continues, as we say. It's got to be ending soon. The 15th is the 15th to the 23rd. Are the magic dates. And he can certainly visit during that time and decide during that time. But it's likely if he's going to visit more than one location, he'll start visiting before the 15th, although we're sneaking up on that date now as we sit here on the 10th. So
well, it'd be a great week for the Rangers because
yes,
we're having Fan Fest. A lot of players are coming in. It would be very fortuitous timing if he could come in, and even if he doesn't want players around, well, the Rangers, they have to let their players work out. So they'd have to explain to them, we're not going to bring them to the meetings,
right?
But we're going to run into these guys because they need to get ready for the season.
Yep. And certainly he'd appreciate that. He'd have to. Vlad Guerrero, you mentioned it earlier, $28.5 million with the Blue Jays. That's an arbitration figure, and it's the 3rd highest ever. Only Shohei Ohtani and who was Soto. Soto got 31 last year. Shohei got 30 the year before, and now Vlad gets 28.5. It does not answer the question about what the Blue Jays will do with him long term, though. And I'm sure there were plenty of Blue Jays fans hoping they would avoid arbitration and announce a long-term contract with Vlad Guerrero Jr.
Yeah, well, he's gonna want more than 28.5.
Yes, he is.
Well, that seems to. I would think somewhere in the 35 to 40 range would work out, but who knows? He's another guy who's going to be getting free agency at a very young age with a lot of good years left ahead of him. He's gotten in shape. He can play third base and first base, so that'll be one to watch in the offseason. For sure, and it'll probably come down to the same teams it always does.
Yeah, and it'll be a question, for the Blue Jays all season long, which is, certainly, I mean, they're obviously uncertain what they want to do, but it certainly would have been a reason to take care of it right now because it's going to be, the first question at spring training. So what are you going to do with Vlad long term? This is the franchise right now, and so there you go. Now. Pete Alonso, a source says, according to MLB.com, that he has said this is how bad he'd like to be with the Mets. He has given the Mets a proposal that only for them he would take a shorter term deal, maybe as short as a 3-year deal, obviously with big money each year, but with opt-outs, plenty of opt-outs, in case he can, find something better, find something bigger. But he really wants to be with the Mets. He says that they say in this article I saw that it's only for the Mets. He's not going to do one. If he's going to sign with someone else, he wants the real deal. But if he's going to sign, if he'd sign with the Mets, just in this sort of stopgap way, they'd be able to protect themselves probably with some opt-outs, and he'd be able to protect himself with some opt-outs.
Yeah, opt-outs seem to be the way business is done. Although Seager and Simeon didn't take opt-outs,
No,
and I don't think they have any trade protection, honestly. So, that just seems like it's going to get done. I know the Rangers are still teams that are they're still linked to Pete Alonso. It's just not going to happen, guys. They need a closer, right? That's still where it goes. And I'll add to the cleanup. Chris Jung was on Foul Territories podcast yesterday, and
okay,
talked about, was recapping the season, the off season so far, and Jock Peterson and Higashioka, and then he didn't name them by name, but the relievers, and then he said we're open minded to adding somebody else in high leverage situations to help us close out games. So not a vast departure from what Ross Fenstermaker said, but not necessarily as strongly in favor of letting the five guys figure it out. So I still think something's going to happen.
Yeah, I think that's probably the wise choice at this point, and they've just got to figure out. Now this helps too, getting those two guys signed. Incidentally, I don't know if we mentioned the dollar figures, but Leote signed for about $500,000 more than it was projected, and Jonah signed for about $300,000 less than it was projected he would sign for. Jonah at 4.75, and Leote up at 4.78, I think it was.
Yeah. I thought, like I said, I thought Leote's was a little high, but hey, what are you going to do?
Got to keep these guys.
Yeah. And that's not if Leote's going to play a lot, then that's probably a pretty
it's
decent
a bargain. Yeah.
Rate for him. So,
yeah.
Hey, we should clean up the chat room. I know we got the Cody Bradford thing, though. Let's do that real quick.
Yeah, let's take a look at Cody. It got rainy and snowy and ugly and icy, and let's see how Cody dealt with that. Got a brand new house, Cody Bradford. Here's what it looks like. A pitch back right against a window. And you got to be pretty damn sure of the pitch back, right?
I like his control. I think his command
control is going to be okay. Yeah.
I love the dog though. What a little dots in there. He just wanted the ball so bad.
Yeah,
he just wanted that ball.
Yeah. So we like you. You like us. We're here each and every day. Normally at noon. Today it was at 2. Make sure you like and subscribe to us and watch the DLLS Rangers podcast. Now we clean up the chat, Jeff.
Here we go. All right. Let's I'm just looking through here right now. We talked to Benny Rarities. I acknowledge the Foul Territory interview. Rarities, who's a regular, says I like how he said that he's always looking to improve the team any way possible. There was a question about if the Rangers don't get Sasaki, would they look into another starter? I don't know. I don't think they're counting on Sasaki necessarily. I don't think they're planning something they don't have yet. But I do think, like I said yesterday, that a starter isn't out of the question. But I think it would be a deal kind of late. Jordan Montgomery, Christopher asked about him. I think that the Diamondbacks would have to eat more than 50% of the contract to make it work for the Rangers. And but like I've said throughout the offseason, that was something they were really discussing in October at their pro scouting meetings. Can they how much can they get the Diamondbacks to take on? Would it be a fit? I'm not sure it was plan A. And, I think obviously Eovaldi was plan A, but maybe it's somewhere in those plans. Natalie, are Wyatt and Adolis the only two outfielders who will play the outfield every day? I'd say so at this point, and I think that on days when Jock Peterson sits, you're going to see Adolis Garcia as the designated hitter to kind of keep him off his feet and keep that big body healthy. Justin asks, how much money do you get in cash consideration trades like the Rangers have made for Matt Festa and Owen White this week? It's generally not much. Sometimes it's $1. I think it's usually about 100,000 though. That's kind of just off the top of my head what I remember at least. So yeah, you're not going to be able to go out and sign a very good player with that. It probably just goes to buying baseballs or the electric bill or something. But Justin asked, what do you think of Kevin Pillar? Could use him against lefty pitching. Agreed. But I think it's a luxury item at this point, and that might be one of those things that, late in spring training or in spring training, if Leote and Evan Carter look helpless against lefties still, then maybe that's something they try to get. So let's keep going down here. Coop says Randall Grichuk or Austin Hayes. Yeah, still free agents, still out there. I think they're probably looking for a little more money and a little more playing time, though. Jeff, the Marmadude, Jeff Wilson versus Giancarlo Stanton in the 40. Who wins? My answer was Stanton by a mile, but I would whip his butt in a mile run, which is true. I think if I could beat any Rangers player at any running thing, it would be like a 5K.
Yeah.
I could beat a lot of them in the mile because a lot of them don't even run a mile.
Right.
That's just not part of the training anymore. Max Scherzer, though, likes to run distance, though he's not a Ranger anymore. Anyway, would Sasaki from Bruce Brasher jump right into the rotation? I think yes, he would, but I think he would be pitching with some pretty serious innings limits, and he is optionable. So there would be ways to, if it's not working out, okay, go to AAA for a couple weeks and work on this or that, and get some individual attention that he might need. Though this guy's really, really good, and I don't think that that would happen. And then Dan asks, if the Rangers sign Sasaki, is there a greater chance that John Gray moves to the closer's role? And I still say no, as the Rangers still have a need for innings, and John Gray is one of the guys that will be able to provide them the most innings. Now, maybe there's I just don't see a situation in which he closes based on the latest we have from Chris Young and Bruce Bochy on that, but you never know. You never know. And I think Boch has a way about him that he could probably convince somebody to buy oceanfront property in Arizona. There's my George Strait reference for the day.
That's nice. Yeah, and he would.
I think that's all of them. I think
that's
good.
Boch would put his arm around him and say, "Johnny, he's a Johnny guy. Johnny, we need you to do this." So, that's a long way down the road, and right now we don't think that would be an option because they really do need innings eaters, right? They need guys who can pitch a lot of innings. So that's great. It's nice 5 minutes to clean everything up, and it ends the week on a high note. And I think we're back at noon most days next week. We changed to 1 on Tuesday. We changed to 1 on Tuesday. But noon most days next week, we're back. I may miss Monday. It looks like the grandchild is going to be born on Monday.
Sunday?
Not Sunday. They're going to induce later in the day on Sunday. With the thought, the hope, and the expectation that the baby will be born on Monday. So anyway, I may miss Monday, but then Jeff will be here with someone that day, and then I'll be back the rest of the week, and we'll hang out and talk lots of base. It's going to be a fun week next week because of the fan fest is at the end of the week. The winter banquet is at the end of the week on Friday. So we intend to have a lot of fun next week.
Indeed. And hey, look, we're less than 100 subscribers away on YouTube from 13,000.
Yeah.
So if you haven't subscribed, hit the button and be sure, I think it shows up on your YouTube homepage every day, and you at least know who you're subscribed to. Hit the like button. I think that helps us too. Helps us with potential sponsors. Our show's growing, man. We're taking off, and we thank you guys for helping with that. Keep coming back because this is pretty fun interacting with you guys and answering your questions and just talking ball at a time when there's not a lot going on the field, but there's always something going on during the baseball offseason.
Yeah, it's fantastic. We've loved it. We hope you have too. We'll see you again Monday, or in my case, probably Tuesday, for another edition of the DLLS Rangers Podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.